Hi, I'm Testard, psychotherapist and consultant on gender and sexual identity in Berkeley, California. The social terrain of sexuality and gender is changing quickly, and it has changed so much in just the last 10 years that it's easy to feel lost as a clinician. At the same time, it's incumbent on us as clinicians to keep up if we want to work with members of the LGBTQ community. Furthermore, our LGBTQ plus clients are diverse, and they come to us with a variety of intersecting and complex issues related to their experience of being a sexual and gender minority. So how do we sort through it all and effectively help our clients deal with their sexual and gender identity as it relates to their mental health treatment? First, there are several do's and don'ts when it comes to working with the LGBTQ community. One of these don'ts is don't push your LGBTQ client to move further in their identity development than they're ready to go. This is a common mistake made by clinicians. So we as therapists need a navigation system to help us hone in on a client's phase of development, effectively gauge their level of readiness, and in turn, apply the appropriate treatment strategies for that client. This is a model that can be referenced with any LGBTQ client who's dealing with their queer identity in their treatment. LGBTQ identity development happens in phases, 6 phases, as the result of the trauma and stress of being a sexual and gender minority. It often unfolds like this. It begins with pre-coming out and confusion. In this early phase, there is no acknowledgement to anyone, including the self, that one may be a sexual and gender minority. But there's often a pervading sense of distress that looks a lot like anxiety and depression. And sexual and gender variant behaviors may be engaged in, but are quite compartmentalized from one's life and general sense of straight identity. Treatment needs for the client at this point would include thought diffusion from negative feedback loops about their desires and behavior, as well as basic education about sex and gender/body dysphoria. The second phase of LGBTQ identity development is comparison and consideration. In this phase, the client is considering that they might be LGBTQ, but they're also expressing fear and reservation about it. They're open to examining their sexuality and gender, but from a safe psychological distance while they maintain their straight identity. Treatment needs for the client in this phase include continued thought diffusion, along with information resourcing. So more specifically, we'll help the client address their fears about the possibility of being LGBTQ, and we'll also provide them educational tools to help them consider their sexuality and gender from different angles. Next is the tolerance and exploration phase. Here, the client can tolerate the possibility of being a sexual and gender minority, and they want to openly explore it for the purpose of further defining who they are. Clients in this phase often call themselves questioning. It's also in this phase that clients seek out therapy for issues directly related to LGBTQ identity. Treatment needs here include external interpersonal resourcing. In other words, we help the client connect to positive relationships that affirm their shifting identity. We also begin internal resourcing. So we start to help the client do a deeper dive into their sexual and gender exploration, and we begin to address conditioned shame as it relates to parts of themselves that are sexually and gender variant. The fourth phase is called acceptance and deepening. In this phase, we will see and hear the client claim a clear sense of identity. They will say, "I'm gay," or "I'm trans," or "I'm genderqueer," or "I'm lesbian," or "I'm pansexual." Whatever their identity is, they will be able to accept it, name it, and claim it. They also begin their coming out process to different people, as well as their gender transition process, and they are beginning to build resilience as a now visible, self-defined queer person. Treatment needs now are about helping them expand their external resources, so connecting to a larger sense of community, and helping them through different levels of their coming out process and their gender transition. We also deepen internal resourcing by addressing internalized homophobia and transphobia and helping the client cultivate an affirming relationship with their queerness. By phase 5, LGBTQ clients are now in pride and commitment. They are now proud to be queer and declare it without apology or reservation, and they are committed to their identity. They're less willing to blend in with heteronormative culture, and they may split the world into categories such as queer and straight or something like that. A late-stage adolescence that begins in phase 4 often intensifies in this phase. So we may see our clients start to live out a sort of teenage existence that they missed out on in their childhood years. And with that, we may see them becoming more bold and defiant, and particularly angry in response to any oppression against their group. Treatment needs at this phase include, first, helping them get affirmed in their late-stage adolescence, and then also to help them effectively process their anger, even if it's directed towards us. Finally, now that the client is properly resourced, they're usually ready at this phase to begin processing LGBTQ-related trauma they've experienced, and also any deep grief stemming from that trauma. Finally, the 6th phase is synthesis and integration. Here, the client will be more integrated. They will express that being LGBTQ is just a part of who they are. They're able to form positive, trusting, and authentic relationships with people outside of the LGBTQ community. And when they speak about being queer, it's with as much ease as when they speak about other parts of their life. Clients in this phase will likely still deal with the stress of being a minority, but they will experience less emotional activation and flooding from it. This is a descriptive, flexible model. So as the model shows, clients should have permission to re-engage in an earlier phase because the process of sexual and gender identity is multi-layered. Also, it's possible for clients to be in one phase with gender and another phase with sexuality. In my training, we'll talk much more about this. We'll also discuss how to establish a solid framework and a trusting environment for your LGBTQ client, as well as specific strategies to use at each phase. I'll see you there.